welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am Joey if you're new around here. I've decided today I'm going to go through my February priority TBR. I would say I'm being pretty ambitious this month. Last month I read 10 books. So this month alone, I think I've got 7 books that are priority for me to read. 4 of the books that I'm actually planning to read are going to be buddy reads that I'm also going to do reading vlogs for. So stay tuned over the coming weeks for them. I am dabbling a bit more into fantasy this month. I haven't read much fantasy of late. I've read more general fiction, queer fiction, translated fiction. So I kind of want to go back to my root, as fantasy has like a special place in my heart. It's what I grew up with. My dad read fantasy, my brothers read fantasy. I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, Devil May Cry, any more fantasy board game or fantasy video game. So that's also what I read a lot when I was younger, was a lot of fantasy. I think I'm slacking. I'm not really reading much fantasy. I think the last fantasy book I read was, I can't remember. I'm just going to say A Dark Shade of Magic. But that was like 4 months ago. So let's start off with my first buddy read. First buddy read of this month is going to be Dancer of the Dance, and I'm going to be reading that with Dylan Joseph. This is queer fiction. I've been delving a lot more into queer fiction lately. I don't know what it is. It might be the Christmas blues, but I read quite a bit of queer fiction in January. Why not a bit more in February? I am trying to read as diversely as possible, which is quite ironic because I'm reading a bit more queer fiction and fantasy this month. But I think this isn't like a set TBR. I might move it around if I want to read other things. So Dancer of the Dance follows Anthony, who is a small town lawyer who is bored of his life. He wants more. It's set in the 1970s. Anthony embraces the queer culture of New York. He goes to dance parties, saunas, he goes to deserted parks, and he goes to some orgies. I don't know much about this book other than the synopsis. What I'm hoping for is it's more of a not coming of age, but discovery of one's self-identity and what he wants in life, but also explores love and potentially betrayal and the harsh reality of 1970s gay culture in America. I've not actually read any works by Andrew Holleran, so this will be my first, and I'm really hoping it's going to be good. I'm very excited for this. This is on my 26th of 2026, which is the 26 books which I want to get to this year. I'm doing all right so far. I think I've read 5 of them. They're actually on my Instagram if you want to watch all those videos. My Instagram's actually the same name, Joey George Reads, so give us a follow and let's talk books. I've not actually got my copy yet, so I'm a little bit behind on this buddy read, but it arrives today or tomorrow. Gorgeous secondhand copy. I'll show you it here. And that was the main reason I bought this secondhand over buying it brand new. I wanted, one, to be sustainable, but also to have this really gorgeous copy. I don't know, this cover just spoke to me. It's just decadent. This cover is decadent. The second book which I'm reading this month was actually chosen by my friend Fatima, and we're doing a buddy read of this in the second week of February. So if you buy the book, we can read it together and we can talk. And that is Half His Age. I don't know what's happening much in this book. Fatima bought it in a book haul. I think that's actually on her Instagram. And she was like, do you want to read this together as a buddy read? And I was like, yes, I would love to. Never read Jeanette McCurdy. I think that's how you say her name. From what I'm aware, this is very much a story about a teenager who's in love with her teacher or has a relationship with her teacher. So it kind of makes me think of Freedom McFadden's The Teacher. But I've not read that book because I read one Freedom McFadden book and that was enough. And that was The Housemaid. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to read anymore. So yeah, Fatima chose this. If I like it, I'll praise her. If I don't like it, I won't be taking another recommendation from her again. I do say that as a joke though. I'm always up for book recommendations. I love book recommendations. If you have any book recommendations, please comment them below. I will read anything and everything. I love reading different genres, reading diversely. I love it. So the third book which I'm planning to read in February is The Will of the Many, and that's also going to be a buddy read with my friend Frank. So this book is Roman inspired and it's kind of like a murder mystery kind of thing. Viz, who's the protagonist of this book, infiltrates this academy to solve the murder of somebody. And that's all I really know. I know it was very hyped on TikTok and Instagram and people were raving about it, and I saw it on BookTube for a while. I'm looking forward to reading this kind of dystopian future murder mystery kind of novel. I don't know if it's going to be good or not. I try to stay away from reviews because reviews can actually influence how I perceive a book. On to the next. So this is my drink of the day. The ice has already melted, so it's already very liquidy and diluted, but it's just coffee with maple syrup and it was ice. It's not iced anymore. I would say it's cold. I'm going to leave my last buddy read for the end of the video, so if you just go to the chapters in the descriptions, you can skip to that part if you want to. The next books I'm going to talk about is actually a trilogy. It's the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. I've never read Robin Hobb before, and I've seen online that she's a staple for the fantasy genre, and I'd never heard of her till a couple months ago. I don't know why. I have this habit of adding all the books of an author to my TBR, even though I've never read a single book by them. And then I'm like, oh, now I have to spend half an hour removing all these books because I don't like the author. Not saying I don't like Robin Hobb. Farseer Trilogy is the first 3 books in the world of the Elderling series, which is like a greater work by Robin Hobb. So from what I've read online, it's like a coming-of-age fantasy story following Fitz, who's a royal bastard who is then trained by the court to be an assassin. He's trying to learn and figure out magic, court politics, allies and enemies. It's very character driven, so I'm very excited for this book series. I am going to do a reading vlog about this as well. So the final book which I actually have on my priority TBR for February is the final buddy read. Drum roll please. And that is The Shadow of Gods. I'm reading this as a buddy read with my friend Keith. It's set in a Norse-inspired world where the gods have driven themselves to extinction. And because the gods are no longer there, monsters and creatures are rising up. These creatures are very dangerous, so people become really desperate enough to try and seek out the bones of the dead gods. Bones of the gods in this world hold great power, and I'm assuming they can be used as a weapon. I don't know, but it seems like it's going to be really interesting, and I'm very excited to read it. This is actually going to be read in the last week of February, so you can join me with that as well, and we can message about it. As I said, follow my Instagram. We can talk about The Shadow of Gods. We can talk about Half His Age. So that's a wrap on my February priority TBR. If you want to stay tuned for my reading vlogs, drop us a follow. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye.